Tired Bob Marley. It
Hey
says
Phil, hey Phil, how are you, buddy?
it's pretty good.
I'm a
Mm.
former Christian, and I think when I finally went to university and I took like a biology class at university, not at my public high school, where they at least at the very beginning had a thing saying, "Well, evolution is blah da da da," da," right? Like I went to
Yeah.
university and they taught me this, and I was like, "This makes so much more sense than any Ken Ham thing, any Ray Comfort thing, anything I've ever heard in my life. This makes so much more sense." And I think
Yeah.
that was almost a changing point where it was like, what am I thinking about when I think about research? Am I biased when thinking about it? Like, absolutely. I mean, you're sticking on things like I said, Ray Comfort, Ken Ham. That really blew my mind when I finally got out there and saw the real world.
It's amazing to me that the lack of education that some have. Not all. Some are taught basically both because they know they've got to pass the test. Thank you, Jeremiah. Um, for school and stuff like that. But then they're still taught on the side that that's just to pass the test. Here's the real story over here with creationism. But once you come out of that, there's questions that there are answers to questions that you've been asking that they couldn't give you questions to. There are, suddenly there's this field of knowledge that you have access to, or you can go get. It's really something. We do know much more than the average person coming out of religion
I
knows
mean,
that
I
we
was
know.
I was told throughout my religious upbringing that evolution is debunked and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you go to university and you see all this stuff, and you're like, what are you even talking about? Like, I
Yeah,
don't even see how you can even say that. I mean, you're out of your
yeah.
mind.
I saw that just today. I saw a post from somebody on one of the Facebook groups. Evolution was debunked 10 years ago. It's like I just think. I mean, imagine the I can't honestly. I can't.
I can't either. Like, you only have to look at certain websites, and when you try to bring that up to people, they're like, "Well, you're being biased." It's like, no, like, look at the tiny little bubble your websites are in, and look at the entire bubble of scientific
Yeah,
community that is
yeah,
not that. Like,
yeah,
if you come on, man, it's like somebody believing that Ford is going to be the best automobile maker ever, and the rest of the nation is saying like, no, no, there's much more better options, and these people stick with that. It's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah. I was thinking about it as I've been doing this for only about 3-4 weeks now, and how I wanted to approach it. And I'm gonna follow both you guys. Popped up on my thing here. Um, that I don't want to spend too much time debating it, right? Because it's not a debate anymore. There's a guy over here named Dr. Donald Prothero, who's a geologist and paleontologist, wonderful science writer and communicator. And he says he spent 30 years doing it. And we've seen the same thing from P.Z. Myers. He spent, 30 years of his life doing it, and people don't change their minds. So to me, it kind of seemed like we need to start treating this like a flat Earth thing. It's like, sorry, you're just wrong. You're just wrong, and move on. Let's talk about something else, or we'll talk about a piece of it, and I will explain the science to the best of my knowledge, because there's gaps. But no, if you come up here and say evolution is false and this has been disproven, and start to talk about irreducible complexity and stuff, you're not going to get equal time on that. It's ridiculous. It's trying to sell a circle as a square.
Well, I
It's
also
it's
like the
ridiculous.
idea that we're supposed to be professional biologists or cosmologists when it's like, no, I just don't believe in your God claim. Like, that's it. When you say
Yeah,
God did XYZ, I say, where is he? Do we have any evidence of him? And you say, you say whatever, and I don't believe you. Like, that's just the way it is. It's just,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, one of the most common things I get, not just here, but when I'm doing Ask an Atheist stuff and with the public, is sort of the argument from complexity. How can you explain that the world is so complex? You know, a painting has a painter. Why don't trees have a tree maker? Kind of a thing. And right there, it's just like you didn't have much of a biology education, did you? So
No, no, it's very tough to go through that stuff, and you can't get him to see the light. Like, it's like I always consider like an atheist the person who brought back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz and looked in there and saw it's a person, controlling this
mhm.
thing. And like these people are like, well, look at the trees. It's like, well, when I look at the trees, all I see is evolutionary biology going on. I don't see
Mhm.
any God. I don't see any of that. I mean, I could tell you that magic fairies make flowers bloom, right? And you're going to say, well, how do you know that? I'm going to go, so you see flowers blooming, right? You know, it doesn't make any sense to me when they bring this up. But they've been so indoctrinated that it's very tough to get by with it with them. And I was the same way at one point, so I can't say too much.
Hey, Ryan, welcome in.
Hello.
How are you
Hey,
doing?
Phil, I,
I'm
I'm gonna go
doing good.
find
How
some.
about you?
I'm gonna go find some other little more maybe testy uh, uh, rooms to be in. But I really enjoyed your stuff. I'm gonna give you a follow, and everybody, I'm looking for 1,000 followers so I can go live. That'd be great. If anyone wants to follow me, that'd be wonderful.
What's your
I'll
full?
enjoy
Give
your
us your
night.
full name. It says Tired Bob Morley.
Tired,
Okay,
tired Bob Marley. You got it.
Tired Bob Morley. All right,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks, Phil.
Take care. Bye bye. Okay, I'm sorry. Get back to you, Rohan.
Hey, what's up? I'm somebody just like a little bit about me. Come from a science background, so I'm an atheist. But I was just on some other lives earlier with just like talking to some people who were really religious, and so I just wanted to hear like what you guys' conversations going on about
Hey, Rohan, what's your birthday, please?
2002,
What's your birthday? The whole birthday?
2002.
Okay. So, okay. Let's see how that goes. You sound very young, so I want to be careful here. So
Thanks.
let's just be careful with topics. Just to be
Yeah,
safe.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So I mean, we're just getting started. So we're a bit of just shooting the BS kind of thing. Well, not BS, but Um, so you're an atheist also?
Yeah, I do.
How were you brought up? What was your upbringing?
I was kind of like my parents were not religious either, so I was kind of atheist like growing up too.
Were you active atheist or you just weren't theist?
No, yeah, I was an active atheist. Like I'm a hardcore like science believer.
Did you come up with that on your own?
Yeah, I'd say I did. I kind of personally, some the type to believe in like evidence sort of philosophies.
Do you remember how old roughly?
I mean, I did like to hear mythologies and things like that just out of curiosity. But I'd say like I'd always been kind of like never really somebody that's a religious person. So I think since I was a young age, I was kind of brought up in a sort of science sort of background.
Yeah, like, because I mean, some people, there's this fairly small percentage. I don't know the number, but they get it like when they're 8 or 10. And some people
Yeah, I'd say I got it. Like I never really believed in God growing up. So like I
yeah,
remember like maybe a couple times when I was maybe 6 years old, I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like I need
really.
my like math test to do good, so I'm just gonna pray to God. But like I quickly realized it's just like that's not really how the universe operates. But I realized that from a young age. So
Wait, what?
He didn't. Is that Greg?
6 years
Hey,
old, God didn't help you on your math test, so I'm an atheist.
hey, Greg, welcome in. Yeah, I admire people who come to it on their own because
Well,
not all
that's
of
not
us
a
do
that's a
that.
pretty ignorant stance, wouldn't you say?
I
I
don't think
think
it's ignorant because I think it's ignorant to believe in things without evidence. But I'm
First of
not
all,
saying
you
it's
were
bad.
6. You weren't
I'm just
taking
saying
math
like
tests when you were
no,
6. That's
no,
kindergarten.
I think you're
So
simplifying my
that's so first
situation.
first off, you're lying. You didn't take a
I
math
whoa,
think
test
whoa,
when you
whoa.
were
Okay,
6.
Greg, hold on.
I think Greg, you're a little bit
Yeah, six
simplifying the
six
situation.
six years old means you're in
You don't really
kindergarten.
know like what
Hey,
my
Greg,
background is.
Greg,
You
So
don't
Greg,
take math tests in kindergarten.
I don't really think you understand my situation. But what I'm just gonna say,
okay, Greg's gone. I'm sorry. You come in and do that, Greg. You can't stay. There's subtlety to everything here. First off, right? You don't just accuse people of lying. Now, I'll give you my 2 cents on it. Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's not like you're talking about an absolute completed belief here. You're 6 years old. it's usually, like I said, it's eight or so, sometimes 10 years old when some people figure this out. That it doesn't make sense, and it takes a few years to think about it. It depends if you're very science-minded, of course. Then you've got more to go with as you get older. So no, to come in and say you're lying, Greg, is at the very least impolite. So
Yeah, and
ask him some more questions.
and as I would say, like it just happens to be so that a lot of people who are religious, like they become very passionate about their views, and they kind of they don't really start to make logical arguments in defense of their own beliefs. So um,
Well. Hold on, Rohan. I don't. Now I'm going to defend Greg a little bit, right? Because I want to be fair. I, he. There are reasons that people's logic, and they may be incorrect in it, but we're here to help them see the errors of the reasoning, and they're here to
yeah, I
help
mean, like
us.
I'm not really here to get
Yeah.
confrontational or anything. I'm just like
Yeah.
somebody with like intellectual sort of conversation.
Yeah.
So it's just like.
Yeah, and if they want to challenge us, that's perfectly fine because that strengthens, right? Because we're after what's true, not what we've been taught to repeat over and over. And certainly, I don't want people in here that are going to be attacking tactically and rudely. So I'm sorry, Greg. I wish you could have stayed. I wish you would have been able to be one of those people that I could have in conversation here because now we don't know your point of view other than you just accused somebody of lying and would not back down when he said 5 words back, and that's just not going to fly on this channel. I'm sorry. Okay. It's a shame, Greg. Well, let me ask you, Greg. Do you want to? I'll give you a chance at coming back up. Are you going to be able to converse politely and make points and let the other person finish before you speak, or should I, or not?
Yeah, I say give them a second chance. I always like to give people a second chance because we all have bad moments, you know.
Yeah, and I almost literally I've never done that before that quickly, so that's why I feel bad about it. So,
Or maybe we don't understand him. Some people just talk a certain way, and he may not have meant anything about it. But yeah, I mean, I do see what he's saying about questioning certain things.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also down to just like listen to other people and their point of view and just like casually talk about it.
This is a discussion channel, Greg. So if you want to put some sort of text message there that says that gives me a reason to let's talk about Kurt Gödel's incompleteness terms. Something like an apology would be nice, or okay, I'll be kind or whatever. But no, Gödel's incompleteness theorem, I think that's going to be above me. So I don't know about you guys. Who I just let in here? Lakesite, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Is he there? Like site? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Lakesite Deluxe.
Yeah.
Is it a realtor? Is it a realtor?
That's not even a real person. How do you have somebody with 3 followers up here? See, 74,000 followers. See, he's doing something.
Yeah, I'll disconnect.
This guy has no followers and 3 followers.
Right.
It's like he made the account like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know it could be. Yeah, I'm wary of that.
2 minutes ago.
All right, I'm gonna. I can almost guarantee this won't work. I'm gonna let Greg back in and see what happens. Hey, Greg, welcome back. I hope.
I hope. Is this okay?
If you're polite, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, I don't think can we agree that 6-year-olds don't take math tests?
of course,
Can we just, if we're being honest and straightforward and not lying, can we all agree on that?
Rohan,
Is it too far of a stretch to say that?
I don't recall what he said about math.
Yeah, he said he was 6 years old and taking math tests, and I called that out and said 6-year-olds don't take math tests, and then you booted me for calling him a liar for saying that. So is it honest that 6-year-olds take math tests? Can we be genuine in this conversation?
You're learning your numbers. Rohan, do you want to respond to that or clarify Carol? Clarify what you were meant.
It depends on when your birthday is. He could have been in first grade. I'm just saying.
You don't. You don't. I have a 9-year-old. I have a 4-year-old. In kindergarten, you're finger painting. You're not taking a math test.
Okay, so I think you are kind of jumping to assumptions, and you don't really know my background, so I don't think it's like makes sense for you to just become so passionate that you think I'm lying about my background. So
okay. So what school gives math tests to 6-year-olds?
I took math tests when I was in 5 years old, so in kindergarten. So it doesn't really matter.
Well, excuse me for highly doubting that.
Well, I think maybe you didn't go to I think every school teaches kindergartners how to do basic math.
No.
Greg, can we settle or settle?
Yeah.
Can we get off of that point,
sure.
and just get to the
sure.
Give Rohan the point that he was starting to see. Rohan, you used the wording that I don't want to put words in your mouth. You were starting to doubt the stories you were hearing or something. What was?
Okay, so like what I said was that I tried to have like faith at a younger age, just out of like curiosity, just testing out like, let's see, like how can God actually do anything for me, or like is it any sort of reason to believe in God? That but I quickly came to understand that it's very unlikely that my prayers would actually change my life. And so other than giving me personal strength, the actual outcomes, I felt that it was extremely unlikely that God existed. So for that reason, even from a young age, I felt that I was not a believer.
Okay. Well, fair enough. It's unusual, but it does happen a fair amount. I mean, I remember Christopher Hitchens said he did it when he was 10. It takes a certain type of personality to, I don't want to go against your parents' teachings, because you said you were not raised religious,
and then,
right?
It might have been due to the fact that my upbringing was like atheist. So my parents were both atheists.
Yeah. So let's just move to the present day, Greg, or something like that. And what would you like to talk about, Greg?
Yeah. So God is an assurity based on three things: mathematics, physics, and morality.
So I'm just curious.
I'm willing to delve into any one of those three if you guys would like.
Greg, if I could ask you just out of curiosity, like I was having this conversation a little bit earlier on a different live, but there was a lot of people who were like very convinced that these sorts of things that occurred that's written in the Bible, certain like miracles and things like that, were absolute fact. When I'd say that like modern science would completely refute those sorts of topics. So you mentioned mathematics. So I'm curious which mathematics that you're using to substantiate your absurd belief.
I can go into it if you'd like, but the first thing you have to realize when understanding knowledge is this principle, which is unless you know everything, you cannot claim to know anything. Because
so can I just respond to that?
Listen for 2 seconds, please. Because the things you believe you know can always be confounded by the things you don't yet know.
So can I just respond to that?
Let me just say that's fair, Greg, if you apply it to both sides.
Well,
Go ahead, Rohan, and respond.
So, like this is a very common conversation that I have with people who are religious, and they say like unless you don't know for sure and God doesn't exist, then you don't know and you shouldn't live your life. But what I personally feel, as my background as a scientist, like if you don't have evidence for something, you shouldn't believe it. That's kind of the school of skeptical thought that characterizes science. So just from my background, I don't feel like if something has a 0.0 is like very low probability of existing, that you should still believe that you might as well go as well living your life as if that is not the truth.
Well, we don't go to 0.0. Nobody goes to 0.0.
Actually, it's much lower than 0.0. It's closer to 0%.
No, actually, the idea that we do not come from a mind, the probability mathematically is 1 over 10 to the 77th power.
Sorry,
And
what was that?
the
One
probability that
over
we do
10
not
to the
come from a
77th power.
mind is 1 over 10 to the 77th power. This was something that was espoused in 1966 through from the leader of MIT, who held a symposium called the Wistar Symposium. They brought in all the greatest computer scientists, zoologists, mathematicians, biologists, evolutionary biologists, because they realized there was a mathematical problem with the theory of evolution. That problem
So
is that
actually, I
human
would
beings
say,
create Rohan, the problem was that human beings create 20 amino acids that create all of our DNA. And the
that's
codons that
correct.
organize those DNA into structures, right? The probability of
Yes,
those things making functional proteins is 1 over 10 to the 77th power.
that's
Ever
where you
since then,
lost
we've
me. That's
realized
where you
there's a
lost me
giant,
because you're correct. And let me just say a little bit more background. I graduated from Berkeley with data science, so you're correct.
that
The
means
20 amino.
absolutely nothing to me.
Well,
The only way that would,
you just
the
mentioned
only
top
way that would
university, so
mean
I thought I would.
something
You just mentioned you just.
something to me is
So
if
Greg,
everybody
let me
would here
finish. I
agree.
let you talk, Greg. Now let me
No, you
finish. So
didn't.
you
You
just mentioned.
interrupted my speech.
No, I
You
let you talk.
interrupted me talking.
I let you make
No,
your
you
point.
didn't let me. You interrupted me.
Are you gonna listen to
Okay,
other people, or are you just gonna
guys,
dominate
we're
the
not,
conversation?
Greg. We're
Oh,
not
this is
doing.
very one-sided. I know you're an atheist and you're on his team, but if you're just muting,
So
Okay,
I think that's a problem I counter in law with talking intellectually with other passionate religious people is they kind of get lost in the sort of they get lost making their point and they don't really care to engage with the conversation.
well, again, I'll be fair to him. I don't think he was lost. I think he was trying to push his point and not let the other side talk. And when we get into these loops, there's no point in continuing. So it would bother me, to be perfectly honest. What caused me to bump him right there is when he said it didn't matter to him that you had a degree. I mean, number one, incredibly rude, and number two, geez, come on, Greg, learn how to interact with some politeness, because if you don't interact, you're not going to be able to get your points to other people. Okay,
Yeah,
and the thing about Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which I don't know it offhand, although I know it's complex. You start to go into stuff like that, and you're not going to be communicating with hardly anybody. So
yeah,
you got to be able to make yourself understood and go back and forth. If you just want to argue like that, you can find another person to argue, and it'll just end up like what you guys were just doing, talk over each other, accomplishes nothing. Nobody can hear. So I'm sorry, Greg. It's yeah.
yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we all have made our mistakes doing that, and hopefully we learn from it as we get older. So, but, uh,
Yeah,
but oh, it gives me a headache. I'm sorry.
yeah. I
Okay.
just I find it like a lot of times people just get really passionate and then they kind of don't really engage with the conversation that much.
Well, he was trying, but you can't.
Hello.
You can't. Hi. One sec. He was trying, but you can't have a converse. This is a discussion, all right? It's not a talk over debate, okay? This is
Yeah,
the discussion we're trying to have here.
right, right.
So, whoa, I know sometimes I hit the timer on that instead of the on button. So, Kaplan?
Yeah.
Kapala, hey, welcome.
Hello. Is
What's
it how do you minimize your biases? Is that like the theme?
it's like that's what we go to if we don't have something going. So it's not so much a theme. I just like to give us a starting point if we just in case we get stuck on,
What are we? What is the discussion now then?
it's whatever you guys want it to be. Rohan, were you on a point before that all came up, or?
I mean, I could just like just my personal like view, and like I said, coming from an atheist background, coming from a science background, and I really think religion is a good thing that can help a lot of people. like through tough times and like give them strength and things like that. But there's many people who kind of like very religiously hold on to some certain ideas that were like explicitly written that maybe have become outdated or like have not really kept
Yeah.
up with, because they're written as permanent, but they're not really keeping up with the modern time. So I just feel that there's certain points where people become a little bit closed off to the
Yeah.
modern science.
Maybe it's just not who we run into on social media, but it seems like there should be more of a middle ground of people dismissing certain things that have become disproven, like Buddhism does. If it's shown to be wrong, then you drop that element of it. But
Yes, that's right.
the fact that we've got a chunk of the population, and I don't know, 20% or whatever it is, the fundamentalist Christian group, maybe it's 30, or groups, because there's many, that believe in the immutability. And same thing in Islam. There's a lot of belief in immutability. There leaves no room for compromise then. So, Kapala, what's your situation?
Like in general?
I'm sorry, Kapaka. Kapaka?
Yeah.
Kapaka.
Yep.
My eyes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter really. I get what you mean.
Yeah. So, what's your background? What's your beliefs?
Well, like, I feel like I keep myself to a more scientific way of life, where it's like more literal than like when there's a God and you believe in that God or any religion really. So, for example, after death, I feel like it's just a state of nothingness. That's what I believe. That's like an example of my belief system. It's more based on like scientifically, you know.
You got me puzzled by the phrase belief system. Maybe that's just because of the way I phrased the question.
Way of life, I mean
is
like how
that
you
just
see certain things. Because with death, for example, in religion, it's pretty common to be like an afterlife or something that happens after death.
Yeah. Are you a naturalist? Do you think that the natural world is all that there is?
I mean, yeah, like I don't mind playing with the thought of like a god, and if that makes me happy in certain situations, I can play with the thought and think about it. But in general, I keep myself more to like the thing you said, more naturalistic or whatever it was.
Have you exposed yourself to religion, or were you when you
Not like
brought
with an open heart, really, because like there's safety, you know. And also,
I
I've
think
grown up with like a mother who doesn't really like religion, and she says it's like, oh,
yeah.
it's kind of a lie, and yeah, it's hard to explain. It's like they're
Yeah,
fooling themselves in her mind. So I've had that like growing up.
get that. I think
So
open heart
not with an open heart, no, I haven't taken the initiative to do that.
I think open heart is the wrong phrase because I hear that coming from the other side. I mean, it's open mind, right?
Open
not
mind,
open,
right?
no, not open heart. Because the problem with when you think of it, and words matter because they kind of bias you a little bit. So when you think of open heart, you really think about
Yeah, I'm sorry
feelings,
for being unclear.
intuitions, and emotions. So. No, you weren't unclear. I just it's just one of my little pet peeves. It's just like because I look for these cues, kind of a thing,
It's
and
interesting, yeah.
usually something like that I hear it from the theist side, right? Because I'm looking for either the missteps or the ways that concepts can be smuggled in to a conversation. You know, assumptions that are smuggled in. And then they continue on with those assumptions intact as if it's been established. So
I'm also I'm pretty zooted right now, so if I like you know, that can be a thing where like I can't remember certain things or I get distracted.
I'm in the club.
Just so you know, like that could be a reason why I'm a bit out of it, or however you want to say it.
That's okay. I spend a lot of my life in that mode.
Uh,
I know that mode very well, unfortunately. I tell you, I'm a retired pharmacist, and I don't know if it's a pharmacist thing, but I think a lot of pharmacists are that way because we have to concentrate so hard on the exact thing we're doing right then. Is that pill the exact one? And you're supposed to not get unfocused in things. So you like focus on this little tiny thing that you're doing, and everything else you try to tune out. So I don't know. So it's just like you can't multitask. I'm really bad at multitasking. So who would just let in? Oh, Matt, welcome. Yes, Matt the Atheist and
Hey,
Rational
can
Rod. I can hear you.
So,
And Rational Rod,
good day, sir.
have you? Do I know you from another channel? Have you got a channel out there?
I don't know. I do some lives.
The name looks familiar, so tell us about yourself.
Well, I enjoy long walks on the beach, intimate candlelight dinners, movies, chilling with Netflix. Yeah, I'm 55 years old. I'm single. I'm tall and dark. I'm handsome. This is
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
No, I was.
It's just a filter.
I hear you. No, I was a Christian for 35 plus years. And so yeah, I've deconstructed, like I'm 55 now. So it's been a slow process of deconstruction. Like I went through a long period of getting to the place where I decided I wasn't a Christian. And of course it takes time to undo what's been done. So I'm encountering things all the time that.
How long a process has this been for you?
Well, I mean, I guess that's 20 years. So from going in my teenage years, well, like I was raised in a moderate Christian home, right? And then at the age of, say, 16, I accepted Christ as my Savior and became born again. And so I entered a more fundamental, more fanatical sort of group of people, school of thought. And that carried on till probably into my 30s. When I started.
That worked.
What's that?
That worked for you at that point in time in life, or it just made sense to you at that time in life?
I think that it worked. I think it worked probably up to the age of like 18 or 19 or something.
Whatever they're saying is true, you know.
Kapaka, are you? What's going on?
Yeah. Oh, he just dropped. I guess he didn't realize his mic was on.
Yeah, so I think it worked when I was a young man because I had lots of Christian friends. I don't think it ever ideologically worked. Like I don't think it was ever a truth. It was just a mythology that created some community for me and some hope and inspiration, all that kind of stuff.
Community is incredibly strong. I mean, it's good. That's the best thing about religion, I think, is the community. I mean, it's good and bad. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's a wonderful thing, but it's also spreads bad ideas. So when something is false, it spreads within that group because they reinforce those things.
Yeah, for sure.
It swings both ways. Yeah. So what do you remember what kind of an early trigger was for you, or that make you?
Well, yeah. Well, it went for me like I have a mental illness diagnosis, and so the mythology of the religion, along with the added challenge, made it very difficult for me to have to have a normal thought process and to have healthy relationships. So essentially what happened was it wasn't working for me in life. it wasn't working, and it led to some really dark times. Because I think if you embrace the initial ideas of Christianity, which are that you're born into sin, you're destined for hell. Yeah. So I was a victim of what I'm able to see from the outside now, and I just came to the point where it was just psychological. It was just psychological survival in order to have to let go of thinking that the Bible was true.
That's interesting, because some people go the other way. They cling on to it as if they've got this sort of over the shoulder helper kind of thing.
Right.
But it didn't work for you, and that's I'm glad you got past it. Especially the guilt and stuff that that I'm not good enough. I'm not doing things right. There may be this hellfire ahead of me kind of thing. It just causes this tremendous amount of worry in some people.
Yeah. Well, from the outside, it's easy for me to see that I think of Christianity, like Judaism and Christianity, as a dynamic idea that grew throughout history and changed. Like it grew and it changed. But the overarching purpose of it was to, I don't think it's a completely evil idea, because I think that there is inspiration in it. I think that there is leadership in it. I believe that, there's lots of good that can be extracted. But I think overall, the equation of it is that we are born with a disease. Christianity has the only cure for that disease. And if you don't choose that cure, then you will be separate from God for all eternity. So it's essentially, it's what I call the big setup.
Can I explain it for you?
It's not a healthy sort of mindset to have for your life.
Hold on, Ezra. Let him get a sort of intro out.
Yeah. So that's sort of my journey in a nutshell, is that I've just come to a place where I'm able to, see at least the Abrahamic faith, able to see them for what they are.
Did you look at other faiths, other religions?
Not really, to be honest. Like I sort of had my fill because I was so fanatically into it for so long. It was just I sort of see what mankind has done with religion, and realize that it's not about God's talking to people.
Have you ever looked into Hinduism? He disappeared.
We lost him. I guess that would be a no. I'm judging from the last question I asked him. Maybe he'll.
Sure. So I would love to be able to. So I'm a rather sophisticated theist, and I would love to be able to answer any questions that you have deeply about the deepest uncertainties or questions that you might have about theism.
Are you a Hindu?
I believe in all the different religions. I believe in all of them. Literally.
You believe in all of them.
I believe.
Do you believe in
the major of the major world religions?
Let me finish my sentences, please. Do you believe that there's one God and they're all tapping into it? So they're all different interpretations of the same?
Yes.
Are you a Gnostic?
I am Gnostic. Yes.
Yeah, I knew it. So he believes that Yahweh is a piece of shit called the demiurge and Satan's the good guy.
Well, no, I'm not of that. I'm not. That's more like Christian Gnosticism. That's not my position. So I'm an Islamic Gnostic. I'm an Islamic. So I'm a member of a religious tradition called the Baha'i Faith. We're Gnostics. Yeah, we're Gnostics within Islam. So we look at in Baha'i. So we look at the way how we look at it is that we look at that the different phases of the world's different revelatory traditions are different levels of literalism outgrown, and that the process, and that the
literalism.
different levels of literalism.
What does that mean? What does that mean, literalism?
So when we say literalism, we basically mean the tendency or the penchant to read the scriptures literally rather than symbolically or ultimately archetypally.
Isn't that difficult to do when you've got so many religions that you're essentially putting into one pot to read them?
No, it's actually when you're dealing with authentic Gnostic insight, it's actually quite easy. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's not an intellectual exercise in any conventional sense of how we would apprehend it. So the way how we understand it, to give you our background tradition, is that we believe that the different world's religions all descend from the same divine reality. We believe that the different world's religions radiate from the same divine reality in precisely the same way that different colors radiate from the same source of white light. We believe that they're qualitatively different, and in many different instances, they illuminate things under very different particular dimensions and ways. We also believe that many different religious systems are metamorphoses of each other, and they evolve. For example, if you were to introduce a caterpillar to a butterfly, they would be hard-pressed to agree that they're the same organism. They eat different diets, they live by different rules, they have totally different contradictory anatomical structures, but they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same being, if not together, different phases of the same organism. So from the Baha'i position, we believe that God's concept of himself evolves. And that as God's concept of himself evolves through interacting with his creation, he reveals himself differently in different evolving structures. So we believe.
Why would there be so many, I guess, simultaneous? Because we've got a lot of overlap now and throughout history.
Right.
Why would there be a need to have so many different interpretations out there? Why wouldn't sort of like one version become more focused and dominant?
So one of the things to which we teach in our tradition is that God is the soul of all conceivable things. God is the soul of everything conceivable. So we believe that consciousness itself is actually God. Consciousness itself is God.
Why do you believe that?
There's no evidence there's no evidence for the existence of a physical world independent of consciousness. We have no access to it. The mere fact that you could see
whoa. Okay, and then transcendental stuff.
Sure.
So there's no physical world without consciousness?
Well, this is also a maxim and a principle in quantum mechanics. This is correct. Yes, there is no physical world without consciousness.
No, not in quantum physics.
In quantum mechanics, yes, it's called the observer effect.
That is not a conscious observer. That means a measurement, not a conscious.
I'm not sure if you've ever heard or if you've ever read any of the original journals of the quantum pioneers. They said that consciousness is absolutely fundamental in quantum.
I don't care about the original journals. I care about current day consensus.
Well, what I'm saying is that according to Erwin Schrödinger, who's the father of the wave function, he said the only way
doesn't matter because we can't. Well, no, because we got to clarify this because Darwin said things that weren't correct in his time because he did the best he could, and that so we have to go by what the science is.
And I understand this now. Yeah. With this being stated, quantum erasure experiments prove that consciousness is fundamental in the universe. Now, what quantum erasure experiments has proved is that the actual observation of the actual conscious mind determines the actual data in the instruments.
Yeah. And I'll say I disagree with that because I looked this up a couple months ago, and that's not the answer I got.
It's the act of measuring.
Let me tell you how the quantum erasure experiment works, so you know.
Well, hold on.
There's something called.
Hold on. I'm kind of going to have to give you the point because none of us here are physicists enough to contradict you.
I'm a philosopher of science, so I know these things. I wrote a textbook on this issue. Like you can look it up.
Doesn't people in the Baha'i faith, don't y'all believe that Muhammad is a prophet too?
We do. We do. We accept Muhammad as a prophet. Yes.
And so you accept the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Buddha scriptures, all of it?
All of them. Yes. All of them.
It seems like really. How did this come?
That's so weird.
How did this come together? Actually, I know
So
it comes. It's
there's a
derived
prophecy.
from Islam.
There-
But
there's a there's a
how did it
there-
how did it come together from essentially a monotheistic? Muhammad is the leader as
So
opposed
I'll tell
to
you. So here's what it
Jesus.
is.
He's a multi-faith.
So from our tradition, we believe that Islamic theology proved to be the correct interpretation of the actual gospel, and that the actual Christ of the gospel was fulfilled in an Islamic sense through our religion. So we believe that Christ returned, but it wasn't the Christ of Christianity as in the way that they expected. It was the Christ of Islam. And that the primary reason why the Christians got their theology incorrect was because they rejected the Quranical revelation, which was the actual correct way to interpret it.
What's the Christ of Islam? Being
being
a prophet and not
right.
Not
so
deity?
there are several different interpretations. So there's the Shia, there's the Sunni, which are largely of what's called the exoteric dimension of it. They tend to read the Quran quite literally. Now, what a lot of individuals within the dimension of Islam aren't aware of is that there is an actual higher authority within Islam than the companions of the Prophet, like Ali or Abu Bakr. Muhammad himself said in a hadith that the ink of the scholar is holier than the blood of martyrs, and that the highest authority is actually in the scholars of Islam. Now, the greatest scholar of Islam is an individual by the name of Ibn Arabi. He's called Sheikh Ali Akbar, meaning the Most High Sheikh or the greatest teacher, and he's given the designation of called the Hatham al-Wali, which means the seal of the saints, which means that.
Am I correct in noticing that everybody in Islam would disagree with this, right? Because not
everybody in Islam. No, like you're going to find this amongst the fundamentalists. They respond to this quite violently. But when you're dealing with very advanced, sophisticated Islamic scholars, Islamic philosophers, this is consensus. Like, if you go to Al Azhar University, what I'm teaching is not contentious here.
Well, no. Hold on. Because I want to slow it down a bit. So, Sunnis would agree it's the wrong interpretation because Muhammad's the dominant one.
No, we're not suggesting that Muhammad is not a final authority. We're suggesting So we're saying, all right. So in Islam,
you said that these.
I'll try to explain. Okay,
let me hold on. Because there's Sunni, there's Shiite, there is what's the mystic arm?
Sufi.
And then what was the fourth one that you mentioned?
So there's Sunni, Shiite, there's Sufis, which could be Sunni or Shia Sufis.
Yeah.
There are Ishraqiyas, which are a certain kind of Sufi, which are Sufis who are also very philosophically equipped.
Well, let's not subdivide past the major one, so we don't end up.
Okay. So this is what it is.
The point I was trying to make on breaking it up into those like 3 or 4 there is that when you say that the consensus of Islamic scholars, I would think the consensus of Islamic scholars is going to be Sunni and Shia because those are the dominant two, right?
Not exactly. So here's what it is. Aren't
there more? Am I wrong in assuming that there are?
Let's go back.
Please let me finish.
I understand, but I have to go back. We have to correct you. We have to stop you. We have to. I'll tell you why. The questions that you're putting they're not formed properly, and the questions that you're asking about what the religion believes is making a lot of assumptions which don't translate into Islamic thought at all.
I haven't asked any yet. I haven't asked that. I'm just trying to define something because I'm on a point here that if given that there are subdivisions within Islam. Right. I'm going to assume, and I think this is a reasonable assumption, that there's going to be scholars within each practice.
Yes, that's true.
Roughly in proportion to the number of practitioners in that practice. Right. So if like, I don't know what the numbers are, but let's just say 60% or 70% is Sunni plus Shia, then there's no way that you're going to have.
Right. Well, this is where you're going wrong.
How you have a consensus in scholarship.
This is where you're wrong. This is where you're because your assumption of what
you just had to let me get the question out.
the assumption of what a scholar is within Islam is a very different set of assumptions with what you would consider a scholar in English. So, in order to be a scholar within Islam, you have to be.
I'm not speaking as an outsider. I'm speaking. I'm referencing those within Islam. So go ahead.
Right. So, a scholar within Islam is not just a sheikh. It is not a sheikh who goes ahead and who. It's not a sheikh. It's not a sheikh who goes ahead and he studies the Quran and then he memorizes. He's not a hafiz. He's not someone who memorizes it. To be a scholar in Islam, you have to be a scholar as Muhammad himself defined it. How Muhammad himself defined it was as a person who is embodied what's called the Ihsan al-Kamal, which means a scholar in Islam is a person who's achieved Muhammad's level of understanding, which means he shares in a prophetic level of consciousness.
Okay, that seems a little self-serving, but okay.
Right.
You do know that Muhammad was illiterate, right? And he couldn't read or write, correct?
Right. Well, we're going to get into that. That's just it's so the concept about it was this. So if you're to be considered an Islamic scholar in the actual Quranical sense of it, you have to be what's called an abdal. An abdal is a person who has Muhammad's exact understanding of it. Now, in order to have that, you have to have a mystical state of communion with Muhammad himself.
Do people in all those four branches agree to this definition that you're putting forth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, they do. Yes. Yes, they do. The idea behind it is that you need to be an abdal. Now, an abdal is not a prophet, but an abdal is considered to be like a phantom mirage and manifestation of the prophet. In the hiding underneath the veil of the flesh. So an abdal is.
Does this mean that they actually have like some sort of supernatural connection to that body of knowledge?
That's exactly what it means. That's exactly what that means.
So it's not like a Buddha who has reached a certain level just by learning over time. There's more of a connection.
There's more to it, right? So to give you the relationship between the abdal and the abdal and the prophet, it would be like this. Let's say that you yelled across a ravine and you heard your echo. The prophet is the one who originates the actual voice. The abdal is the one who repeats in the same voice coming back. It's the same voice. It belongs to the same person, but it's at an order of resolution which is a little bit lower and a little bit diluted. But it's the same voice and it speaks with the same authority. That's the actual concept of the abdal. So the greatest abdal in all of Islam is an individual by the name of Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi achieved a station which is called the Khatam al-Wali, which means the seal of the saints. Which means he's the only saint within Islam to have literally shared a soul with Muhammad directly.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there because it's interesting, and there's lots to be learned there. But this is an atheist channel, so
this is the answer to the question. I think, but I was trying to answer your question. So this is so how the religions come together is this way. The Baha'i faith is the fulfillment of prophecy within Islam that Jesus Christ would return in the year 1844 and reestablish the actual original understandings of the Abrahamic faith. So from our understanding, the way that we interpret it is the actual, literal, exact understanding that Christ himself would actually have of the religions if he himself could teach it to you.
So, okay, here's the problem.
That don't make you different from any other Christian religion or anything else, because every church or whatever believes they got the truth of God or Jesus or whatever.
But there's a difference. There's a difference between us, and it's the fact that our prophecies were actually fulfilled to the date and to the letter.
That's what all the rest of the churches say. If I were to go right now, and I were to ask a Mormon missionary, they would tell me that all other churches were wrong. The church was established correctly through Joseph Smith. That Jesus Christ, they believe that Jesus Christ actually came down to Joseph Smith and gave him the revelation that it was his job to restore the true church. If I were to tell them, they would say the exact same things that you're saying. They're
completely different claims. So number one is that nothing in our faith is taken on faith. We don't do anything by faith, by just pure belief. We don't have any of that.
Do you not have belief in revelation?
Every revelation to which we advocate is something that you could directly experience in a mystical state of consciousness. We don't advocate literally at all.
How do you prove that?
Well, it's actually quite simple. So the scientific method is not something that just merely applies to the physical world. The scientific method is a method. So in our religion, you have to apply the scientific method to your own spiritual concepts. You have to.
Yeah. How can you test the spiritual thing?
It's super simple.
Using scientific methodology.
So let's evoke a philosopher of science and a philosopher of religion by the name of Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber says that there are three types of data. There's what's called sensibilia, which is the data of sensory experience, like the redness of red, the B flatness of B flat. That's sensibilia. He also says that there is another form of datum, which is called intelligibilia, which is the quality of our thoughts. For example, you could distinguish what differentiates the concept of the number 2 in the concept from the number 3 is the actual quality of the intelligibilia. And you're actually able to intuitively distinguish the qualities between concepts. If you didn't have the ability to distinguish them, you wouldn't be able to distinguish your concepts. But then there's a third set of data, which is called transcendilia. And transcendilia is a type of data that doesn't originate in the senses, and it doesn't originate in the intellect, but it originates in the intuition. Now, the scientific method...
Okay. Hold on, give me a second to absorb that.
Sure.
So it originates in the intuition.
In the intuition, right. So
Give me an example.
All right, I'll give you an example. So you have the concept of a concept. How do you know that? It can't be another concept, but it can't be. So you have the concept of a concept. The concept is known to you directly. You have a direct experience of the concept.
Mm-hmm.
You experience, in the direct experience of the concept is called its intelligibility. Now, your direct experience of the concept is different than your direct experience of like the coldness of cold. That's called sensibilia. Now, what is it that makes it able to proclaim itself in your awareness that it is a concept? How do you know it's a concept without using another concept to intermediate? It's an appeal to a...
Are you saying we can't know this? We couldn't know this?
I'm saying we can't know this.
You didn't let me finish my sentence. Okay? If you do that again, I'm going to drop you.
Well, you've interrupted me in the middle of a sentence and got upset that I interrupted your sentence. So you can drop me. I don't give a shit. Go by ahead. We'll play by the same rules. I don't give a fuck if you drop me. You're rude.
Okay. Well, if you're going to volunteer.
Yeah, bye. Ciao.
Damn. Let me think here. If what generates intuition is our DNA, because we have evolved it with a certain amount of intelligence, and at a certain level, we have this frontal lobe now, which gives us the ability to compare concept and have abstract thought and things like that. So when you get into how do you know a concept's a concept, you're BSing, honestly, as far as I'm concerned. So, intuition comes from essentially what we were born with. We were born with inherent intuitions that are based on the evolution that got us here. Okay, we know about gravity, we know about heat, and these very sort of basic sort of things of physics, and then there's some more complex stuff that stays with us because previous generations way back when have been successful using those types of things. For example, cooperation versus taking advantage of other people. So the last thing that he was on that was catching me that I couldn't even get out here was that the idea that these, how do you know a concept's a concept? Well, he's essentially saying that there's a flaw in the logic that would still be there if we took language away. So that makes no sense to me either. So I couldn't get that out. Anyways, I was trying to also take him back to hold him for a second there, and get them back to a base concept, which is that, revelation and prophecy are two things that I think, and Matt, you can disagree with me here if you think it's valid, and I also bring your point up if you disagree. That got me riled and now I'm losing my thought. Oh, I lost it, or maybe it'll come back. I'm sorry. I hate that. I hate doing that because I don't want those conversations to end. But when people are that rude and start swearing, I may have cut somebody off because they said something incorrect, but you don't see me flaring up and swearing at people. Yeah. And again, it's that sort of thing where if he's going to be that strong-minded, that was a very bizarre concept.
He says,
I know. Go ahead.
Oh, what I was going. He says the same thing that any other theistic religious person says. We're the only faith that does this. We're the only faith that does that. We don't go by faith. That's bullshit. You believe in a God, don't you? That takes faith right there.
And I was hoping there would be another Muslim in the room because it seemed like there would be some real pushback on someone who was Islam to agree with what he was saying. He seemed to be defining scholars in a very specific way with a very, very high bar. And it's just between that alone within Islam, and then to try to put all other religions together seems to me a task that just I don't see how you can do that. And for us as atheists, it's like we don't see the reasoning for miracles and
Yeah, so the thing is, when it comes to Islam, they're just like Muslims are basically like Christians in the way they think that, like how the dude that deconstructed over the years, that was this in here, whatever his name was, how he said Christianity presents itself like it's the only cure for this invisible disease. That's how Islam does. So Islam doesn't accept anything else but Islam.
Yeah.
They don't.
And I think, to be fair to Islam, I think it's a stronger religion, not because it's got more truth to it, but because it is more coherent. The Bible, because of the many authors and the way it's come together, is contradictory and it's all kind of all over the place. And the Quran appears to have a single writer. Because the style is all the same, even though they're not like chapter kind of things. They're just like the surahs are sort of individual subjects, kind of almost. But it's got a consistent message, and it's also very harsh in terms of the way it tries to spread itself and defend itself.
Yeah, the most coherent and rational religion to me is Satanism. You ever heard of Anton LaVey?
Honestly, I don't know anybody who's a Satanist who truly believes in Satan. So,
I follow the teachings of Satanism because they're atheists. They don't believe in God or the devil or anything supernatural. They just look at Satan as a symbol that represents human nature. That's it.
Yeah. To me, I wish they would have their own symbol. Instead of pulling something inherently it irritates other believers because they're others. Because they're not believers. You're right, they're secular. At least most of them, the TST especially. So
yeah, I'm a member of the TST.
Yeah, I'm
a member. I used to be a member of the Church of Satan, but I resigned because I don't like who's in leadership now. I still follow Anton LaVey, but I'm a member of the sect of the Horn God, which is an atheistic group. But Anton LaVey was an atheist, and he saw Satan as a symbol that just represented man's carnal nature. They don't believe in anything supernatural.
Yeah. That's what. As far as I know, that's what it seems. It's more hedonistic. It's more self-centered. But yeah, and they've used a lot in this last generation, especially to counteract the religion. They call themselves a religion because that's how the Supreme Court treats them. So that gives them the ability to counteract some of these things, like putting up the Ten Commandments.
Well, the Satanic Temple aren't actually religiously Satanist. They're more political activists, but even then, religious Satanists are still atheist. The Satanic Temple is a political activist group, and I joined them and I became a member. I know a lot of people in the Church of Satan all hate the TST, but I like their activism work against. They just got done teaming up with the Freedom from Religion Foundation and suing Memphis County and won because Memphis County was trying to enforce the Bible in the schools. I support.
Yeah. Hi, Pricey. Welcome.
Hiya. Right. I was brought up a Roman Catholic, right, up until the age of 12. And then I sort of went to Church of England and Baptist.
Baptist? Okay.
And then it was for 3 years. I worked in a Muslim country in Jordan, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And while I was there, right, because I'm a Christian, and our Bible and the Hebrews and all our religions all stem from that place, yeah? And the Jews say this Jerusalem and all the tribes of Israel, yeah?
Yeah.
So the Quran is, the difference between the Quran and the Bible is, the Bible is written by prophets and scholars that, like, their teachings, what they learned over the time through Jesus, yeah? And
no. I mean, the Bible is not. The Bible is not written. It's not written by prophets. They say it's written by apostles and advocates, right?
We call them saints. We've ordained them as saints. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You've got the Corinthians. You've got the Romans. You've got Genesis, Revelations. Yeah. And
but those are not prophets, are they?
By one person. They're all written by different people. Yeah.
Yes.
And monks.
I'm having trouble with the word prophet, though, because I don't think they would consider themselves.
No, right. I didn't say prophets. I said saints. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with saints. Okay.
The Quran, in their belief, it is written. It's the word of God. Yeah.
It is supposed to be the word of God revealed to Muhammad. Over 20 years.
Like even with the Mormon religion, that was believed to them by John Smith, wasn't it?
It was. We know that to be a scam, but it's the same structure at least. There's one person claiming it was revealed to him.
Yeah,
and
the Quran was there before Christianity. Yeah, it was.
No, about 700 years later. 692, I think it is.
No, because when Jesus was born, right, there was, it weren't Judaism, there weren't no Jews, it was the Hebrews, yeah? And there were...
Judaism is about 1500, Judaism is about 1500 BC.
Yeah, it's a long time after the Christian Bible and that, yeah?
No, before. Judaism comes first.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
And then Christianity at the birth of Christ, and then actually about 30 to 60 years later when people started writing about it.
Yeah.
And then Muhammad about 700 years later.
Like, I've got the Bible, I've got the Quran. It was their system of laws, wasn't it? Because you had the Romans came along, and then that changed everything again.
Well, the Romans had the Roman gods, and Judaism was practiced before the Rome started, and through the Roman Empire, and Judaism was persecuted by the Romans.
And this is what happens with all religions. Another religion comes along and says they're better than theirs and try to change them. Like we've done it with Christianity, haven't we? We think we're educating people and making them better, right? But at the end of the day, right?
Well, they say that they are. They each say that they're number one, that they're correct, and number two, it's a better way. Yeah.
That's what we should have, that understanding. Because that man we were on before, I felt like he were preaching to me and saying, this is what you've got to believe. And by the end of it, I couldn't take it in. Right? I was.
Well, it's a hard concept because I mean, like I said, Islam is about the year 700, a little bit before, and then Baha'i is an offshoot of Islam, and I think Baha'i is somewhere around 1800s. I may be wrong, but it's much more modern than Islam, even though it's considered an offshoot or derived from.
The Bible was Hebrew, wasn't it? And then they changed the writing. I think it was the Romans, and then you got the St. James's Bible. So it changed again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, the Romans, Constantine. I think it was Constantine. Yeah. He was of the Roman gods, right? The public started to pick up on Christianity. The Romans persecuted Christians and Jews. Well, Jews first, obviously, because Christians weren't around yet. And when Christianity started to become popular, Constantine, I think for other reasons, Rome was starting to lose its power and its control. And he saw that the population were more following Christianity. So rather than fight it, he basically embraced it, and then he claimed it to be that the pagan gods were no longer going to be the right ones, and that Christianity was going to be the right one. So he got behind it, and then it was a little bit after that, maybe 100 years or so, that the Bible was actually canonized.
Yeah, and then you get the Book of Romans, don't you? The Book of Corinthians and the Book of Romans. So that's their little bit to it. But the Quran has never changed, yeah? It's always been that biblical text, and it has never ever rewritten, it has into other languages, but it is still in the Arabic language, and you have to be a scholar to learn to read it.
Well, no. Well, that's what they say. But there's one problem with the one limitation with the Quran is that it's not that big a book, so it doesn't cover a lot of topics. So,
114 chapters, 110 or 12, 14 chapters.
The Quran is about as long as the New Testament, just roughly. So that Muhammad wrote the Hadith is how it works, and then gave his own opinion on more situations on how you should act in this or that, and then of course you have from that you've got scholars that were considered highest. I won't go so far as the last guy, but let's just say the best, who were considered the best interpreters or whatever. And that continues to
is it
today.
the Torah and the Psalms?
Psalms are biblical. It's the surahs and
that's when it came. That's when, from the book of Abraham, that's where the Christianity started coming into it, because you've got to remember that's where Jesus, when his name's not Jesus, it's Joshua, and it was changed by other religions. Yeah.
Well, Joshua is the Torah, right? Which is the first 5 chapters of the Bible. So that's the Jewish religion. It doesn't turn into Christianity until Christ is born.
Yeah, and that's the Old Testament, but we follow the New Testament. But you still have to have the knowledge of where that started from. If you know
I do. So what is the point? So we've got this sequence now.
Yeah.
What is the point? Are you implying?
No, what I'm implying is when you're a Christian and you're Catholic, I'm taught the New Testament, and that's my beliefs and that's the teachings, yeah. And we believe in the
Virgin. It depends on who you ask, because you can ask some Christians,
and then you've got different bits, and then you get the Muslim saying, "Oh well, Jesus is our prophet. We don't believe he's the Son of God. And Jews don't believe he's the Messiah. So what? We all took our little bits and we all use it to live peacefully and stop bashing each other to make them think their bits are right, you're, because we haven't forgot them bits. We've took our little bits, and we're following our religion, and we should respect our religions and be open-minded and let them listen and learn about it. But please don't start shouting at me and telling and interrupting people, and it's triggering. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a. I wish you were. I wish people were as kind as you were suggesting there, because there's a lot of wars in history have been fought, obviously, in the name of religion.
And you'd think now, you think 3,000 odd years later, right? Because it started long before Christianity. Yeah,
Sure.
The religion. Yeah, and it doesn't care. I don't care what religion you are, and I respect your religion. I get fed up at people going, "Oh, you're white supremacist and this and that." That's my ancestors, not me. That's in the past. Stop living in the past. Move on. You think in 2024 in Britain, Muslims and people they don't want to fight.
But the problem is, people do fight because people don't want to. I mean, some people don't want to give ground, and that's a problem. And so,
and that's like the scholars, and that's what it is, scholars. So become a scholar, educate yourself, and don't start shouting and passing your beliefs off until you know what you're talking about. Sorry, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a bit contradictory, though, because I mean, people are gonna. You can't expect everybody to know everything, right? That's not fair.
No, exactly.
So I mean, if you grow up and you study, say, 4 major religions that are currently in your zone, if you will, your part of the world,
like I did.
maybe that's reasonable. You also have to study science, because it goes well. But science findings, some of science findings contradict what's in some of the religions. And that, frankly, is more accurate, like the age of the universe, for example.
That's where Plato and Greeks come into it. And do you know what I mean?
Not quite. Plato is 500 BC, as opposed to
that's what I mean.
Scientific knowledge about the age of the universe today. I'm not sure what your point is there.
Because the age of the universe, and then they come up with heaven and hell and the earth and the time, and the calendars change, and they say, "Oh, the Prophet Muhammad, she was 9 years old." Well, no. Over time, ages change. So 1 year might have been 2 to 3 years in their lifetime, whereas ours is like changed. We've had the Gregorian calendar. Julius Caesar we're on now, but at that point in time, it might not have been documented that how long a year was.
So how do we get people, or how do we encourage people to essentially leave each other alone and not try to take over and make their religion dominate in an area where there's another one already there, or two?
I think
how do we get people to get along better?
I feel that some people don't. They see people that haven't got religion. They see people that I'm not in a religion. I believe there's a God. I pray, but me praise when I'm praying, it's a spiritual thing, and I think about what I want to change. Yeah, and it's not about. It's either how I can make myself better or for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I pray, it's not like Hail Marys and things like that. These thoughts in my head and this higher power, whatever it is, yeah, it's to help. And
can I make a suggestion, and you tell me if this makes sense? To me, religions can get along if they agree to not be expansionary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not to feel that their religion's the righteous one and you're not religious, and they're trying to like.
Well, They're all going to believe they're right. They can believe they're right. I'm just saying, because when you become expansionary, then you are attempting to impose on others. You can teach to others. You can teach,
willing
but
to learn, if you're there and they're wanting to listen, talk about it. But if you feel you're taking over the conversation and you're keeping it all about your religion, then you're not willing to learn, because to learn you've got to listen to others.
Well, for sure, when you do that, then you're not. You're trying to expand. You're not allowing people to coexist. This is a great time. I'm going to bring in a guy named Respect here and see. He's got some good insight for us. Thank you, Pricey.
Right. Bye-bye. Take care. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Hey, Respect. Matt, you've been here a bit. So I'm gonna bring in. Well, you can hang if you want. I'm gonna bring in one more person too.
Of course you can.
I'm bored.
Respect. Introduce yourself.
What's happening, man? When you say you're an atheist,
Yeah. Introduce yourself.
well, I'm a Muslim.
Can you got your cell phone or your mic on?
Was you in here when that dude that was in the Baha'i faith was in here? The Baha'i faith or whatever?
Baha'i. Bahai with a little thing on it. Baha'i. So say again, Respect. You're
Muslim? An atheist. Yeah, I'm a Muslim.
Okay. Yeah. So did you hear the Baha'i speaker?
No, really? No.
You didn't hear it? Okay.
No.
That's too bad. I would have liked to have gotten your perspective on it.
What was it about?
He was saying that he was trying to explain Baha'i, and I know Baha'i people, but I don't know the religion that well at all. But he was explaining that it is supposed to be derived from Islam, not an offshoot of Islam, but derived from it, and that it claims that there's one God and all religions essentially come together and touch that one central reality. And also there was that. Yeah, that's enough.
That's not Islamic at all. At all.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but I don't have that level of knowledge, so that's why I would have been curious.
So can I ask you a question? Because I don't speak to many atheists.
Go ahead.
Who does an atheist believe in? Like, what do you not believe in, or what?
I believe I'm my own God, really, essentially.
You're your own God. Okay, cool. And host?
Well, that's okay. You don't mean that literally, do you, Matt? Because you're a satanic temple.
Well, I consider. Well, I mean,
it's a comedy show.
Atheist, but I consider myself that because I follow the teachings of Anton LaVey.
But I mean, we're talking. So when we use the word God here, I want to be clear, so we all have the same words.
No. What I mean by my own God is like I'm just my own person. Like I'm in control of my own universe, like my own.
Yeah, right. That makes sense, and that's what I'm trying to get at. Because God in religion and in Islam is it's a supernatural creator of the universe, and that's not the same word as far as I knew in satanic temple. You're in control of your own life, right?
Yeah,
that's what you practice. Okay, so that's what he means, Respect. No, he doesn't mean God in the
but basically atheism is simply the lack of belief in a God or gods.
My cheeks are hurting. I'm grinning so hard I want to laugh.
Tell us why. What's so funny about it?
Matt is basically satanic, right?
No, he is. Satanic Temple is not.
He follows.
They don't believe in Satan. They don't believe in Satan.
I'm a member of the Satanic Temple because I support their activism, but I consider myself. I just tell people I'm an atheist to make it more convenient. I am an atheist for sure. But I do consider myself a Satanist because I do follow the teachings of Anton LaVey and the.
What kind of contradiction is this? It sounding like the Bible now. It's crazy.
It's not a contradiction. It's just a.
They don't believe that a supernatural Satan exists. Respect.
I hear you still. I hear you. So
I'm an atheist just like Phil is. I just look at Satan as a symbol that represents my human nature. It's more of a philosophy than it is a religion, really.
it's a crazy world we live in, man. It's crazy how we meet different type of souls in this world, innit, on this app. I would have never ever spoken or heard about this ever in my life. I've never come across this.
Hit the internet, great.
It's
I also hold membership in Phil. You probably have heard of this group, American Atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The U.S. National Organization. Yeah.
Matt, the guy that you follow, bro. What's his name again?
Anton LaVey.
So
when he passed away on his deathbed, come on, this is the guy that created that satanic Bible, if you want to call it, no?
I know where you're going with this. Those last
What
words
did he say on
were
his
made up.
deathbed? What was he saying on his deathbed,
That's
guys?
what I'm trying
This
to.
is the funniest thing ever.
Nobody knows what people say on their deathbed.
No. It's there. Listen.
I'm trying to answer you. I'm going to answer you. That was made up by Christian evangelicals almost a decade after he passed away. That's his own daughter that was there even said that never happened.
Yeah. Can we agree here, at least on that topic, that what someone says on their deathbed, it's either not documented or that doesn't mean much of anything. They could be right or wrong on their deathbed, just as they could be right or wrong in life. So that doesn't prove anything.
He regretted doing what he was doing on Earth. When the angels were
I'm sure there are some people who did and some people who didn't. Let's just leave it at that and not.
My cheeks are hurting. Let me rub my cheeks. I'm grinning too much. Let me rub my cheeks. It's hurting.
I hate having those things where we talk about things. We talk about subjective things that nobody really knows. So,
okay, I hear you still. A bit of banter.
Yeah.
With a touch of little salt, okay?
What would you like to talk about or ask us or tell us about?
Nothing really, guys. I'm smiling, I'm grinning, and the host is grinning. I don't have no bad vibes.
How'd you come into Islam?
Most things here can start like this. You can start by you being born into Islam, because that's what God says in my religion, that everyone on earth was born into Islam. That means a Muslim.
Not true. That's not true.
No problem. In my religion, but you have to remember my religion, because your thing is different.
No. You don't get to make rules. I mean, because a guy tried to do this to me the other day. He said, "I'm going to argue from." He said, "I'm going to argue from my religion," which makes no sense because
I know
you're basically making presuppositions.
No, but
so everybody's born an infant with very little information.
Yes.
And
who gave you your soul? Who gave you your soul?
I don't believe in a soul. But let me
wait. So what? Wait. What do you mean? What the hell? Hey, listen to this, yeah, host. One thing about me and you.
Okay, let me tell you one thing about me and you. Let me make my point now.
No. I'm not going to waste my brain cells. Here we go.
You're not going to waste your brain cells?
Why should I? When you telling me
you have extra ones because you were just smiling.
A soul. Okay. My bro.
Okay, I don't believe.
I'm going to call you my brother for the sake of brother. So, yeah.
Thank you.
A soul.
You too.
Listen to this, yeah, bro. Yeah. Who gave you your soul that's talking, that's doing everything in this life? So you're telling me your body, yeah? Listen, it's nothing. Your skin, it repairs. Your soul is different. When you have a scar on your soul, it could be a breakup. It could be anything in this world that hurts you or even makes you happy. It's always there. Let me say something to you. Your soul, who gave it to you?
Go ahead.
Who?
Oh, okay. Okay, first off, we don't know. Humans do not know exactly how consciousness works. So there's a big don't know component here. So obviously a soul concept, it goes way back as far as certainly the early philosophers, right? And in most religions. I don't see a basis for it. I don't know how you could possibly give me a reason, or there's no evidence per se. So because it seems like this is sort of a metaphysical thing. But you're free to try to convince me that there's a soul.
No, I don't want to.
Give me a reason to give me a reason to believe that, as opposed to just making it a
What you
presupposition.
mean? Okay, bones and flesh. Bones and flesh is bones and flesh. Without your soul, you are a nobody. Your name wouldn't be who you are. You wouldn't be existing. You wouldn't be on this earth doing nothing. You would
Why
be.
do you believe that? Why do you believe that? What is your basis for
okay, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, always, yeah.
I don't know about this body scientific, all this stuff here. I can't be into all of that stuff. Like I said to you, the way I can simply answer you, yeah, is my religion, because you have your own base, your own thing, right? Your
Well,
following.
I don't have a religion.
Okay.
No.
But your way of living, right? Yes or no? Your way of living, the way you live, the way you're going about your day, the way you're going about your life, yes? The people you have in your life are not. Okay, listen. That's your way.
Of course.
And guess what? It's for me to believe or not believe. But I don't need to question you up and down, left, right, center. I'm telling you what I believe, what my God said.
Yeah.
Everyone
and it's okay. Respect. That's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I don't believe there's a soul, and it's fine if we sit here and disagree on that.
Let's ask the comments.
But I'm curious, because if you have a way to convince me, I can be convinced, but I haven't heard any argument. All I've heard is an assertion. And if that's all you got, then that's okay. You're going to have that opinion. I'm going to have another opinion, and we'll just be bros.
That's how life works, brother. That's how life works, brother. That's how life works, brother. Some people support this team and that team, soccer or basketball, and you have an opinion. That's just the way life works, brother.
Yeah.
I might be driving today, and you might have an opinion about my driving, and you might be driving the next day, and I'm like, no, you're not really good at driving. It's my opinion. We all have an opinion.
Well,
anyway, look,
can we talk about something that is more fact-based then, besides the soul?
Oh, fact-based, facts.
I mean, fact-based as opposed to. Not that there's not a fact of whether or not there's a soul. There is a fact of whether or not there is a soul, but we disagree, and we seem to have no way to get it set together. So let's just put that subject aside, unless you want to try to convince me that there's a soul, and I'm willing to listen to an argument or
Do you know
evidence.
what? I can't be asked. But go on, next thing. We can go on to the next thing, because you could search it up when you're finished here, and when you have like 10 minutes of your spare time, I'm sure there's.
I've already spent 10 years doing this, so
I know, but 10 years. So what were you before that then? Just asking. Did you ever grow up?
Retired pharmacist.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool. That's nice. Did you ever grow up into a religion, like your family and that your parents? Just asking.
I grew up Catholic, and I left it when I was a late teen.
That's cool, man.
It started to seem like it was just stories.
Guess
and
what? Yeah.
And then a little bit later,
as well.
Yeah, and a little bit later, I read the Bible, and it just seemed to confirm that it was just a book about believers.
Between me and you, host, yeah, be honest, yes or no? Have you ever read the Quran from the first page to the last? Yes or no?
So, yes.
From the first page to the last page?
Yes. Immediately after I read the Bible, I read the Quran. And then I read the Book of Mormon.
What's that?
Then I read the Book of Mormon.
Man, that book can be so easily refuted.
Yeah.
The only thing you need to know to refute the Book of Mormon is that they did not speak 16th century English in the 18th century, and it's century English, and it was supposedly from the mid 1800s.
So, respect. What was the point that you were getting to when you asked me about did I read the Quran?
Huh?
Respect. You were
just asking because
you were headed to a point.
No, sorry, brother. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
You asked me if I read the Quran. What were you headed to for that?
I actually
just asking.
I own
if you have just asking a question.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Hey, you own a Quran, Matt? No, Matt. I'm coming to collect that. I don't think you should have it because you're guys in Satan's temple, bro. I'm joking. Bad.
I have it for research purposes. I have the Quran that I have has Arabic and Roman script in it.
Yeah.
Brother, please don't do nothing crazy with that holy book, please, yeah.
It is useful
Be
to read.
respectful.
I have it for
Read
Yeah,
religion.
thank
I have it for
Just
research
because-
purposes. I have it for research purposes.
host. Have you ever listened to Quran, host?
Call me Phil. Call me Phil. All right.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't see that. No. You know why?
That's what I was pointing to it. Yeah.
No,
It's
host.
okay.
In my screen is small. My bad.
That's okay. That's okay. And that's okay.
Hey, Phil's a good name. I like Phil. Phil's a nice name. It's easy for the tongue. Listen.
I've always found it
Have you-
difficult, actually, but okay. I'm glad you like
Nah,
it.
man. Phil's a lit, nice name. Simple. Listen to this. Have you ever listened to Quran?
Listen to the Quran?
Yeah.
No. I read it. I didn't listen to it.
Please listen to it one day, please. Look, I'll give you one right now. Look, this is my favorite one.
But the people say that it doesn't really help unless you listen in Arabic.
No, please, listen. It's in Arabic and translated in English there, subtitles. So when
I'm fine with
no,
that.
but you're not getting it. Listen, as a brother to brother, yeah. Please give me 5 minutes, even 2.5 minutes of your time one day. Just listen to it. I'll follow you. And
I've
maybe
listened to the Quran. I've listened to Surah Al-Fatiha in Arabic. I've practiced Islam for a brief time before I completely deconverted from religion.
Mashallah, bro. At least you tried, though. At least you tried.
Yeah, there's a mosque like 15 minutes from my road. I used to, when I left Christianity before I became completely atheist, I used to go there and pray with them and have tea with them and all that kind of stuff.
Be real. Did they treat you nice? Yes or no? Be
Yeah,
honest.
100%, dude.
Thank you. Look, we respect you lot as humans, yeah, and whatever you lot doing, yeah, it doesn't matter. Just hopefully one day, I'm not even, do you know what? When God guides, okay? Because even I'm on my own path, yeah? So, just please, yeah, Surah Taha, please, guys. If you can listen to even 2.5 minutes, 5 minutes, it'll make you smile. It's in subtitles. It's the story of Moses.
How? You're talking about in the Quran, the story of Moses in the Quran.
Yeah. When he goes to save the people of, in Egypt, the time of the pharaohs. I don't know if you believe all of that stuff, but if you know, like, if it's in history.
There's no evidence of the Exodus.
Okay, that's Surah Taha. If you want to check it out, it's the story of Moses, guys. If you want to check out the story of Jesus, Mary, whoever the weather, yeah, please.
That little
it's
sidestep there. Okay.
Oh man, it won't convert you. It won't make you Muslim, all right? If you listen to it, it will just maybe make you smile. All right, cool.
Can I ask you to read a book by Neil deGrasse Tyson about how the universe began?
Can you write in the comments? No, write if you want me to read something.
I don't know. I don't have a title in mind. I'm just saying Neil deGrasse Tyson is a good science communicator.
Also read
He
a
has
book.
several books about how the universe began. So
Also read a book by Richard.
I understand.
Also
What you
read
say,
a
bro?
book. I said also read a book by Richard Dawkins called The Selfish Gene.
Listen, if you write in the comments, I will definitely put it in my notebook and I'll check it up tomorrow, or even in like half an hour, and we could come back another day and have a conversation about wherever you don't want me to check. But as long as you don't check or listen to Quran once, just listen to it, please. Let your soul. I know you don't believe in soul, but trust me. Let's see what happens.
Tell you, it's really challenging. All those surahs about what you should do to unbelievers is kind of disturbing.
But the same way a lot of other books have the same thing, brother. When it comes to
Right, and I don't follow them either.
When it comes to conquering and believing in one God, listen, if me and you was running, example, a part of an area and we were doing, the dodgy stuff, cartel business, mafia stuff, we'll be taken out of a lot of people, guy. Yeah, me and you. Yeah, I'll be running a lot of stuff. But anyway, look, God says to conquer.
Give me 10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds to plug here. Everybody, while we're all here, you could please give me some heart taps on the screen. That would help the following a little bit. Follow if you haven't already. And that's about it. I want to say hi to Move Look, who's in the room here too now.
Hi, how's it going?
Welcome. Respect. Did I cut you off, or did you have something else you wanted to finish up with?
No, you didn't cut me off, guys. I don't mind dropping. I just wanted to say
You don't have
Hello.
to drop. You don't have to drop. I just
Okay, that's
wanted
cool.
to.
That's cool. No, that's
Yeah.
cool. Then I'll stay for a bit. Nah, let move. Look, have his little discussion or conversation with you, and I'll stay on the mic.
Okay. So move. Look, what's up?
All right, so I just had a question for the host. So you're atheist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So do you believe in creation or not?
No. I believe in evolution and abiogenesis. We don't know how the universe, how the Big Bang was initiated. We know the Big Bang happened, but we don't know what initiated it.
Okay, so you believe that there's always been something there, at least, because science says that nothing can't come from something, right? Or something can't come from.
Science does not say that. We do not know is the correct answer. So I follow the consensus of those most educated in a field, and that field says they don't know. There's no consensus of how the universe began. There are lots of hypotheses, but nobody knows at this point in history.
Okay. So from what we see around us, we can kind of get an understanding that anything that has like a functioning that's like comparable to the human anatomy, it all came from either someone creating it, right?
No.
Can you give me an example of something that functions otherwise?
Well, you're talking about biological things now, right?
I'm talking about like
animals and trees. Well, living things. You talk about organic things, right?
Not specifically. It could be anything. Like the phone you're using right now is created.
Okay. Well, this is an important distinction because there's a difference between a squirrel and a rock, right? One is inorganic, it's just minerals and stuff, and the other has carbon-based organic interactive matter. So there's a distinction between those two, right?
I can kind of agree on that, but the way we can see that AI is looking right now, there might not be a distinction between those two in the future. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a kind of a different discussion. Is AI going to be sentient? I can tell you, we'll never know in this generation. So that's as much confidence as I have in that. But yeah, in terms of how things come to be, we know the path of biology all the way back to single atoms with high confidence, except that abiogenesis is there's still a lot of unknowns. There's quite a bit of work going on there, but that's more unknown than the rest of it. Evolution is a done deal. And similarly, we know how not a tree, because a tree is organic. We know how like a mountain would come to be, or a rock or whatever. So just physical things that are not alive. Right. Some things are alive and some things aren't, right? Do you know the difference between life and non-life? Do you need me to give you a sort of a clarifying definition?
No. I can agree with that, but there is is there evidence of that humans were not made in the same way as on maybe like a higher, like on a different scale, but the same way that we can create, as we see today, the amazing creations we have, whether it be like whatever, you can just see like how your computer functions. Don't you think the human mind was kind of similar to that?
No. I mean, I see the intuition for that thinking, but that we know now in the 21st century how that came to be, and we know how computers came to be. Right? You're right. I see the comparison, but a computer is a physical thing that we essentially made from rocks, right? Minerals and compounds and things, and we manufactured it some way with intention. So yes, we can look at a computer and say it had a maker, you can't look at a biological thing. Well, I mean, you could, but it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's an antiquated idea, because we know now that that's not true. It didn't have a maker any more than a mountain had a maker.
Okay. I have a question. Have you ever played a video game where it's like The Sims or something?
Once, actually.
All right.
Not really a Sims guy, but yeah.
So like we created the computer which the game program runs on, but can we prove that let's say if the sim within the video game was to realize they wouldn't be able to I don't know how to say this they wouldn't be able to comprehend how they were created, or whoever created the computer which their program is running on. So that's kind of like what I think. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, you're implying a couple of different things. So I don't think you're trying to imply that a sim has sentience.
I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm just saying if it were to, though, it wouldn't be aware of how it was.
Okay, let's just say, for sake of argument, let's just say that an AI robot that is built 50 years from now, when the technology is more advanced, let's just say then that robot is sentient. It is aware of itself. In the same way that science seems to think that we are sentient because consciousness appears to be just something that comes from matter in a certain pattern, in a certain design, right? It's an emergent property.
Yeah. So I'm not really religious or anything, but I still have I really believe in creation. Like I don't think like everything came from, like the general science,
Yeah.
the Big Bang and all that. But I'm not religious, so I'm more. I don't want to say this, but like I'm more open-minded than a religious person would be. But yeah.
Well, I mean, a religious person has been trained, or we use the word indoctrinated, but has been educated with a certain set of information, right? That this is how things are, and then you're not supposed to question things that don't make sense. Like why did God have a creator? That sort of thing. If you get into some science that will start to fill in the gaps for you, my suggestion is to start with a very, very broad outline, something called Big History. Google Big History and find an audiobook or a tape or a YouTube thing on it or something, and it'll take you from the earliest moments of the Big Bang to current day on a very broad outline. Okay? And then you can sort of move in from there as the subjects interest you. So, because right now, what you're saying is that you don't believe in things that you really don't know. It sounds like, and I don't mean this as an insult, I mean just as a literal thing, that you don't know a lot about some of this stuff. So it seems like you would need to fill in some gaps.
I may not have explained it like I know like a lot about scientific theories on evolution and all that, Big Bang and stuff. I don't know too much about it, but I do see two perspectives because I grew up religious and also grew up in schools, like, learning all the stuff most people do, science and stuff. So I've just been always, I realized all the religion stuff. I left it, tried how you have to kind of create a new way that you can start learning, because that stuff really indoctrinates people, right? But the same thing I saw was with science.
Indoctrination. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to take you off track.
The same thing I realized with science is when I began to question that and look at other theories that weren't taught in school as well. And there's a lot of different things that it kind of might confuse a lot of people, but but if you have that open perspective, you can look at theories that aren't really taught and actually give them an open mind, not
Well,
just
that's a misunderstanding, because science is not a religion, and it's not an alternative to something like creation. It's a methodology, of course, and it's a set of knowledge that we have developed so far that is based on things that have been largely proven, right? And then you build on that. You figure out what electricity is, and now you can. And then we knew what magnetism was, and then we learned that they were actually a similar thing. And you build on that. You build radios, and then we learned something about physics, and then eventually we built cell phones. Atheism is just the non-God position. Science, as a methodology and a collection of human knowledge that has been learned through that methodology, is not just an alternative set of ideas. It's the one that has been shown to be correct. Like the Earth is not 6,000 years old, like XYZ religion teaches. So be careful. I mean, go ahead and look at different religions, because it's interesting to do that, if only because it helps you understand how other people react and interact with the world, because so many people follow those things. But don't look at science and any religion as alternatives to each other.
yeah, I can see
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to bring up the next person. So yeah, looking at big history, it's an easy way to get started.
All right, thanks for having me on.
All right, take care. This just happened tonight. Okay, I've got another. Yeah, there we go. What did I just like it? Hey. This is Lightacular. That's a cool name. Welcome up. Lightacular, can you hear me? Ooh, yeah, it looks like.
So I was looking to minimize your biases.
Yeah.
That come to mind. One, I think the first is
confirmation.
I feel like I don't have to, explain to you, but I feel, yeah.
Well, I mean, what what's your belief? Are you atheist or religious, or where are you at?
Oh yeah, I'm atheist.
Okay. So you know about confirmation bias? That's just one of about 150, unfortunately.
It was the first that came to mind, and when I thought about minimizing it, I think it comes from an awareness of when that bias is kicking in. Or the first is the fact that it exists. You have to acknowledge the fact that it exists, and then you have to see instances where it's kicking in, and then actively seek for, I wouldn't say contradictions to what you know to be true or want to be true, but it's just awareness. So like self-awareness of the fact that you do have confirmation bias, and then
I think you're
go ahead.
Right. I think you're exactly right. I mean, the most difficult thing is to be aware of your own biases, and sometimes we get it because other people tell us, right? You're being biased, and they kind of explain why, even if they're not using the official terms or whatever. But yeah, and you're right. I think it's a good idea to be aware of what biases are. This is something that I as far as I know, is still not taught in schools, and I think it should be taught from a very young age, like maybe third grade at least, or something in that range. Because there are so many biases out there that it's easy to get caught, and then you don't realize you've been caught. You don't realize you're doing it. So you end up justifying and rationalizing things that aren't true, as you don't have a reason to be. Like the availability bias is one. Do you know that one?
No, but from context, it seems like knowledge that's available to you. Is that what it is?
Availability bias is a bias based on sort of like something you're currently exposed to. Like if I asked 20 people here, we'll just say 10 people. If I asked 10 people here, if I brought 10 people online and say name a color, more of them than average would list either gold or blue or something, because it's just right there. They're being influenced by it being in their sense of space. So
Right.
that's an availability bias. For example, if someone says, give me a number between 1 and 100, for example, 75. 75 is the bias. They're just giving you a hook, and more people will answer with higher numbers than lower numbers now. So it's being aware of those types of things. And, we can make logical errors, fallacious logical errors without realizing it, just because of the biases. And if you've never read a book on it, it's interesting because there's so many. They're not complicated. They're just that simple to explain, but there's just a ton of them. And that's just the way we are, because evolution has taught us to function on a just good enough level. So these biases tend to have some sort of serviceability to them, some sort of positive functional edge, even though they're not always true, but they tend to have some truth to them, a little more than not. But they can throw us off.
Yeah, and I think you said what I was going to say in exposure to things that contradict your bias. And I'll give an example, and this ties into, the atheist conversation. The Olympics and the opening ceremony and people getting offended. Like, one, they put it through an American, and then an American and Christian lens. And then, no, that's the point. Like in France, and I haven't been to France. This is completely, I will say this is almost completely anecdotal. A lot of people were upset about the fact that you could kind of see the outline of the guy's genitalia that was, playing Dionysus or whatever. But in France, I heard someone say once, when they were a teenager, they were in France and they saw a billboard, and it just had a lady with that was exposed on it, and they asked their dad hey, what's that? And he was like, that's an ad for bread. And we're gonna freak out over something like that over here, but they view the human body through a different lens. They're not, even.
So that's a cultural bias, right? That's a cultural bias. It's a good example of subjective morality. Where some people in whatever country, certainly in some place like Iran, would say that's an immoral thing to do, to expose a woman's outline or something like that. And that's what their culture believes.
Yeah. And it stems from a lack of exposure. If people weren't super open-minded and super respectful of another culture, if they'd experienced it, they'd at least understand, okay, that's how that works there.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting them to change how they do what they do and present that to the world to benefit me and how I believe.
I think that was too harsh a criticism then, because there's a certain when in Rome philosophy which sort of helps you get along when you're not in your own culture.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. Welcome up, Joseph. Whoa, Joseph.
He's got a case of the giggles.
I'm assuming that Joseph is not a cat person. Lots of dogs there. Oh, hope you enjoyed yourself there, Joseph. All right. I'm going to throw out a. Here's. Give me 1 second.
All right, you're good.
Go ahead. You can say something. I just have to scroll for a second.
Oh, I was gonna say that I think that I guess Gen Z, that generation, the benefit that they have with the access to technology is an instant exposure to regular people in other cultures.
Yeah.
What our generation got was like in movies or on like news outlets or things similar to that, but what they're getting is real people doing regular stuff in other cultures, whether that's like a difference between the Midwest and how things are done in the South in the United States, or an exposure to the way that infrastructure looks in places like Japan and China, and how regular everyday people interact with that. And I think that's going to give them a unique advantage in terms of unifying as a people, both locally and globally, because they understand, like, hey, these are just other human beings. A lot of them have some of the same struggles that I have, whether it's with finances or mental health or physical health. Like, the things that unify them will be more understood and more visible than the things that divide them. And I think it's gonna make for a good time. A good time. Although I don't think they're going to have much of a planet after a while.
Well,
that's unfortunate.
I'll go one step further, even, because even if there's an advantage, obviously, just like you said, to finding the commonalities, but there's also benefit to finding the differences, and just seeing them and allowing it, if you will, in your own mind to be okay. You have things you do that other cultures don't do, so why can't they have things they do? Because there's too much, when we don't have connection with other cultures, especially if you're fear-based thinker, you tend to make stuff up, or you have conjecture and stuff like that, and you're probably going to be wrong because you're not working on the right information. So even though they may do something that's different and weird, maybe they put applesauce on their pancakes instead of maple syrup or some weird thing that's just like incredibly offensive. It's just a different way of living. So sometimes just knowing the difference is like, sometimes it's cool because it's just like, hey, let's have companies that serve applesauce on pancakes in this country because that sounds good. And sometimes it's just like, okay, now it's not for us, but it's fine. So you're right. I think it's that's why I'm really looking forward to these next couple generations. I hope to live long enough to be able to see some improvement and some reduction in the everything from racism to homophobia. I'm a little concerned about the uprise that we have globally in the far right wing. We've seen that in a good half dozen countries, and that's a problem because that's basically becoming isolationist. But I have high hopes. I have high hopes for Gen Z. Was it Gen Y? I think it's Gen Y. The one that was just coming out of college when the 2008 recession hit. They're a special generation, I think, because that is supposed to be the first generation since World War II, if not earlier, that will not do as financially well as their parents did, which is a complete break in the American way, if you will, let alone any place in the world. And that has caused them to perk up and distrust some of the institutions that we have. Hopefully that will translate into getting themselves into power and then fixing the problems that are there. Not an easy thing, because a lot of those problems are very well dug in. So,
and you illustrate something there, and there's an even darker side, which I feel like a lot of people don't address, but I'm seeing it just more and more evident. And that is the fact that I don't know which generation like it applies to the most, but I know it's a heavy thing in millennials that a lot of us experience depression in a way that the present that we live now, we did not expect to have for a great deal of our past, in a way that like we didn't have future plans. Like we expected to be gone by our own hand like a long time ago. And like life is just like, oh well, what do I do now? I didn't know I was gonna make it to 30. I thought for sure I wasn't gonna make it to 30. Like I don't have all these like long-term things that I've been working on since my teens and 20s and developing for like future like finances and housing and assets and credit and things. I wasn't worried about that because I didn't think I would exist,
Why was you not worried about that? Because at my age, my children are your generation, and they're buying houses and they're going on holiday. They've got cars and they're enjoying life, and they've not got children, yeah, and they're going out and experiencing life and cultures and I spoke to my friend, is my daughter's uni friend, yeah. And I talked to him because I said, are you in Britain? And he said, no, I'm still in China. He says he's been watching what's been going on. And I says, Tariq, I says, I experienced racism yesterday and I felt belittled. I felt, to me, feel small and that I was the problem, yeah. And then I cried, right? I come off and I cried, and it weren't for me. I cried. It was for the coloured person that was blaming me, and I never felt like that. And I thought, oh my God, have we made these people feel like that? Because that boy who did that, it's mental illness. You can see hiding his face, his hair, and everything, and children, and I see it with a lot of people. There's a generation of depression, yeah, because like he just said, he didn't plan for the future, yeah, and he's stuck in a rut, yeah.
Well, I do wonder. Well, actually, go ahead. You respond because that was to you. So,
I don't. So I know what my trauma and my depression and everything was like. I know the source of that. I can't speak for a lot of my generation, but
do you have
worked out how you can work it out? Have you worked out how you can get out of that? Have you come up with a plan? You call it praying and I call it my higher being. Have you worked your way out of that?
Yeah, no, I'm in a place where I plan for my future. I plan future events. I've got 2 kids, so I think about them going to high school and college and being a grandparent. Like I'm in a place now. I'm in a place now.
When you do it
where I
now, you know,
do-
while they're at school, you go and educate yourself. So while they're at school and you've got that time to yourself, use it wisely.
Yeah, I'm working on my master's degree, but
Volunteer for places.
beyond that, what my personal depression like came out of as a couple factors. One, at a very young age, I was recognized and intelligent, or I'm sorry, recognized as intelligent and labeled as such by those around me. So there was that. And then 2, I inherently, before that even happened, had a great sense of
Having to achieve
self-criticalness in what I was
expectation
doing.
of others.
Yeah.
Self-critical.
Yeah, I was being.
I had that.
Yeah, and then combine that with the fact that my mom coming out of poverty and escaping poverty by way of education, college degree, career, based on that, I had formed my like entire self-worth and like my entire life's purpose around
Privilege.
succeeding.
And privilege than other people.
Yeah, succeeding through way of education and career. And when that's at the point in my life after I graduated from college, I was like, I felt like I was at a peak at that point because, you know, I was involved in so many activities that I was awarded the highest award they give to an undergrad. I gave the graduation speech. And then soon after that, like, I fell from.
It becomes overwhelming, doesn't it?
Yeah, I fell from that. What I felt like was that path, and everything came crashing down around me. And since then, I've had to work through like working jobs that aren't the most glamorous or the most, you know, great representation of my intelligence and intellect and leadership skills.
What you've got to do is build your self-esteem up again. Yeah, feel your self-worth, because you're putting the way you're speaking now. You're like, I can feel how down you are, right? But you're bringing up children, and do you read them stories on a night time? Do you want to spend your time with your kids and do homework with them and take them places and be educating them?
That's good motivation. That's good motivation. Yeah. Pricey, I was gonna say, you said a bit ago something to what you said before, early on when you first came on this time, was that it's interesting some different perspective you have because you're in a more multicultural environment than in the United States. Right, because you're used.
Because at the minute they're killing each other, right? And there's riots.
Well, but I mean, you know of different cultures, and they're close to you. They interact with your, a little bit less with your economy now. But whereas the United States tends to be too mentally isolated.
I'm living in Newcastle, and I've got my Yorkshire accent, right? And I've got degrees. And I've got a teaching certificate, which if I done like another 6-month refresher thing, I could bugger off to China, because I've got Tarek there, and he teaches English, and I says, well, do you think I've got a degree in digital forensics, right? And I says, do you think they'll want my degree in digital forensics? Because this is China we're talking about, you know what I mean? And he says, of course they will. If you have got the skill set, they'll have you. But it's same with the UK. You have got the skill set, you'll go places. And my daughter is 22, and she's training to be a dermatologist at Newcastle RVI. Yeah, My daughter is 30. Yeah? She makes films. She goes all the way around the country. She's been all over the world. Dubai, Thailand, Blue Lagoon in Iceland. I'm so jealous, right? But I'm not. I'm so proud. And she's buying a house. She's buying a house. She bought her first house, started buying a mortgage, her first house, 22. Yeah?
Wow.
And she...
Good for her.
Yeah, because when she was going through university, I learned to Photoshop at 14, 15-year-old. So if you've got skills that you can learn your children and have fun doing it, yeah, whether it be another language, yeah, whether it be
the sport,
Photoshop or the sport, yeah, get them away from the riffraff, low-life people, and you'll play with your kids. You'll introduce your kids to better people, and that's what I did. And Tariq came from Syria, and he paid the double amount of money. And I was from a low income, because my family, when my mum died and everything, I've always had money. But then I went and I earned money, and I went and I got my degree and volunteered. I volunteered for Age Concern Age UK to fix the computers. And then I sit on a night time and learn Photoshop from YouTube, right? And do all these things. Nice. And then when my children left, I picked up a pencil and I watched drawings on Loomis, how to do the Loomis. And my God, I am talented. I am talented. Honestly, I did not believe. Because it bored him. So instead of sat there watching Coronation Street and moping, I go for a little drive. And we had these solar flares and that. And my daughter come out of the house in Jesmond in Newcastle, poshest area where she's buying it. Yeah. Well, it's not a house she's buying; it's a flat.
I'm gonna scoot on to let some other people up, and I haven't answered questions all evening, so I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna go anyway, but
my wife just got home from work too, so I'm gonna scoot on out.
Forget about religion and go to church, practice your religion, have your beliefs, yeah. But best thing is to have that peace in yourself, that peace, serenity, calmness, a clear head of thought. And it's not praying. It's like it is sort of praying. It's sort of collecting what thoughts, how you can make things better, what you're going to do tomorrow, whether you owe bills, how you're going to pay them, what you're going to work it all out. Go to sleep, forget about it, and do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Break down life into simpler pieces. Thank you, Pricey. Love your accent.
Bye bye. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Talk to you later. Like I just said, I haven't responded to anybody online because we've had a beautiful steady stream here. I sent a bunch of invites out, and I think we're at a bit of a gap here, so it's going to give me an opportunity to answer some questions. So please, if you wouldn't mind, give me a little support here. Put some taps on the screen, send me a rose if you're so inclined. Please follow. I know I've just watched the stuff scrolling by. There's been so much that's been going on in the background. I love that you guys have been having a good conversation. Let me go back up and see if I can pull a couple of questions. Give anybody else a chance to come up if they're interested. I'm not going to go all the way back because that's going to be way too much. We've been going for a while, but let's see. Sometimes I try to intervene in conversations, and I shouldn't do that in chats that you guys are already pretty much covering it all. So, ARMZ 44. You believe in two rocks colliding and making us and a universe. That is, you're trying to mock me, or somebody. But we believe, yes, that we came from elements, and we know elements that go further than that. The origin of the universe, the beginning of the universe, starts with plasma before we even had protons and things. So you seem to be trying to mock on that, and that's a lack of understanding of the process. Given, I understand that it's kind of intuitive to think that we didn't come from rocks, but in fact we did come from atoms, which are basically just a less vicious way of saying rocks. Dum 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 dum. Sorry, no errors can be found. It talks about world phenomenon. Yeah, there's plenty of errors, and I don't know if you're talking about the Bible. You got errors right up front in Genesis. Light does not come before stars, at least not light that you can see. Photons existed before stars, but there was nothing for photons to bounce off of initially. Two rocks made the universe, or who makes it day and night? The rocks. Again, go easy on that, because you're displaying a level of ignorance that's and that's not intended as an insult either. It's just intended as a factual statement of lack of knowledge, and we all are ignorant of many things, so don't take that wrong. Who changes day to night? Who makes it? Yeah, rain and sign. It's like, the tides go in, the tides go out. We can't explain that error that news guy from Fox made. And yes, we know how that works now. This is 2024. It's a question of, do you want to know what that stuff is? Because it's out there. The information is out there. Oh my gosh, 30 new messages while I'm just scrolling here. Let's see if anybody's in the queue. Okay, so I guess we're wrapping down here. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you. Nothing can't create something. I wish we knew the answer to that. That seems to be a very intuitive. It is a very intuitive thing, but the problem is that such comments don't seem to jive with quantum theory, where we know virtual particles can come into being out of essentially potentiality of a quantum field, and also that when you think about what's within the universe, meaning from time zero to infinite time forward, whatever is run by the rules that are within our universe, we don't know if that applies before time zero. So you can't actually say that nothing can come from something, because we don't know what nothing means in that sense. Okay, so you guys looks like you're mostly just going back and forth, and that's great. So I don't need to go over everything. Oh, look at all those lovely hearts. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll mention real quick that I am also on YouTube. If you miss any of these lives, I put them on YouTube also, in parts and in whole. I'm way backed up on that, because this every 2 days of doing this comes much quicker than I can possibly edit them. When I put down the whole thing, I put it pretty much unedited. I'll edit down like the first 60 seconds to get rid of like the pauses and stuff, to let you get into it a little bit. And I don't start the file until we're on an interesting subject. But otherwise it just rolls straight through. I do edit, like when I'm talking to an individual person, I'll take that whole section and edit it down. But again, just to make it nice to hear, I edit out that right there, my stammering pauses and the ums and ahs, and sometimes we all do this. Not everybody. Sometimes people repeat themselves and say, but, and I'll just edit out the first 3 buts, those types of things. But I don't edit out content unless there's some legitimate reason to, like somebody insulting or whatever. Okay. I guess I'm going to wrap up then, everybody. This was a really fun night. I was ready for one, and I really appreciate it. I don't think I've ever had so many people come up in one show, so I really appreciated it. There are subjects left unspoken here, so some of you who came in, come on another time. I generally am trying to allow people up here who I haven't heard of before, but I'll try to remember the ones that were here, because there's lots of subjects that we didn't get to, and there's some very friendly people here. So meanwhile, have a nice evening. Everybody be kind to each other, please. It's very important, even in disagreement, be kind to each other. I'll talk to you next time.